milestone winner, of course, for 3 different brands. Victorious for Yamaha, for Suzuki, and for Aprilia. It looks like Vignales' MotoGP career is teetering out with a bit of a whimper, unfortunately, as he finds himself now last in this battle. Pecco Bagnaia, I was just going to say, Bagnaia has just found some pretty impressive pace at the halfway point of this Grand Prix. He's now back in the 121s himself, which is on par with the top 4, Marc, Fernandez, Agura and Acosta.
Well, it looked like from Jorge Martin off the line. He got himself onto the outside of Fabio Di Gianantonio, who, as you saw there, had already lost 2 places off the line to the Trackhouse Aprilias.
Yeah, did you? As he started going through the gearbox, you could see there he was getting a lot of wheelie, a lot of lift on that front tyre. That's cost him so much momentum.
Kena pelanggaran.
Sparks flying off the right-hand side.
Gara menayangkannya terlalu lama.
About the halfway point of the Assen Grand Prix, but Agura, I think Ido engaged it by mistake. Those multitude of buttons on it and levers on a modern day MotoGP bike. I think I just actually engaged it purely out of a human error. It's obviously not broken. The rear IDOT device stuck down there, not aggressive enough on the brakes, was he, Fernandez, into that first corner?
They will all be a thing of the past for next season in MotoGP, the new generation of MotoGP for 2027, 850cc bikes, reduction in aero and ride-height devices consigned to the dustbin of history. As we look at Ralph Fernandez, back-to-back laps now that Bagnaia has taken some time out of Jorge Martin, so the World Championship leader hasn't got that 5th place bought and paid for just yet. The gap now down to 3/4 of a second, with Martin not able to get himself out of the 122s, Bagnaia doing high 21s.
Yeah, he's been on those high 21s now for a good 4 or 5 laps in succession as the factory Ducati rider. That's getting a bit of a kicking, a bit of a humbling once again from his teammate, 93 Mark, as we drop down with Fernandez through the 5th gear, Ralph Waldman curve. I mean, all this now is a test of the focus, a test of the concentration for Mark. Comfortably clear at the front of this Grand Prix. He has got pace to burn, you feel as well. You do feel if anybody got close to Mark, he'd be able to up the ante a little bit. Felt like, well, Alex and Di Gianantonio said yesterday, they felt like, despite the fact that he won the sprint in rather dominant fashion, he was keeping something in reserve. There was a bit more in the pocket, another gear, should he require it? And it feels like the same fast forward about, what, 24 hours later?
Penny for the thoughts of Marco Bezzecchi watching this at home. I'm sure he is watching somewhere, having undergone successful surgery on that broken collarbone, about to drop behind Marc Marquez in the World Championship. Ultimately, he's got to regroup, recharge and try and fight back stronger, try and do to Marc Marquez what Marc Marquez has done to him in the World Championship by gaining 100 points or so in the last 4 Grand Prix. After winning the first 3 Grand Prix of the season, Marco Bezzecchi became the red hot favourite for the World Championship. It would appear as if the man in red is about to take over that particular tag.
Martin's getting the Bagnaia hurry up behind him. The message has been crystal clear for the Martinator, because for the first time in what feels like about half a dozen laps, he has actually slightly bettered the pace. Bagnaia in hot pursuit behind him. There is that majestic turn 11, just over 200 kilometers an hour.
Sorry guys, tadi pernah pelanggaran.
That justice.
Nggak boleh kelamaan munculin itu. Munculin video aslinya.
Spectacular, one of the most awesome corners on the 22-round Grand Prix calendar. One of the most awesome corners of any Grand Prix circuit we've ever had since 1949. And we're looking at one of the best to ever do it since the inaugural series, all the way back in the late 1940s. Cruise control, well and truly engaged for Mark.
One battle we might have to keep an eye on that I think might develop in the latter third of this Grand Prix is between the 2 Trackhouse Aprilias for second, Ralph Fernandez and Agura. Agura pumped in a 21.5 on the last lap and has pulled a 10th and a half back on Ralph Fernandez. He's now 6 tenths behind. You can see on the screens he's already taken a further 10 part way around this lap. Generally, Agura comes on very strong in the latter stages of this Grand Prix. Can he, for the 2nd Grand Prix in a row, chase down and catch and ultimately pass his teammate Ralph Fernandez?
Yeah, the 2 Trackhouse boys have dumped Acosta out of the podium battle at the moment. Acosta has produced more heroics on the RC16, but he clearly at the moment is suffering with fading grip. We've still got a third of this Grand Prix to complete as well. I think Acosta might be okay in what is now turning into a rather lonely
Nggak
four
boleh
spot.
lebih
There
dari
he is,
3
just
detik
in
coy.
the, moving out of your picture as we move into turn 13.
Nanti diberhentiin live
Almost 4
streaming kita.
seconds up the road ahead of fellow Spaniard Martin. First time though in the Grand
Ada
Prix,
pelanggaran satu
courtesy of a
tadi.
1:21.512. Mark stretches his lead out to over 2 seconds clear of Fernandez. Nothing once again between Fernandez and Aguirre in terms of lap time.
Marc Marquez masih di depan ya.
When he was asked by yourself in the press conference on Thursday what his chances were potentially winning again or even getting on the podium this weekend, it's fair to say he wasn't bubbling with optimism on Thursday. I agree. Now, of course, he's been the benefit of some good fortune. Alex Marquez crashing ahead of him, Fabio Di Gianantonio crashing from close behind him, but you've got to be there to take those opportunities. If Aguirre can hang on to this, it would be a third consecutive Grand Prix podium, which would move him ahead of Fabio Di Gianantonio, ahead of Marco Bezzecchi. He would be third in the World Championship, of course. He'll also be leapfrogged by Marc Marquez.
Ngeri ya. Ngeri ke Bennett gua, YouTube gua munculin
So much at stake here for Aguirre. Torukawa, 2002, the last Japanese rider to have 3 successive podiums in the Motogp World Championship. That is in the hands right now, isn't it, of Aguirre? He's miles clear now of Acosta, who just tried to go with the Aprilias ahead of him. Once again, you have to say, it's the Justin Marks American camp that are giving a bit of a bloody nose to their factory counterparts at Aprilia.
8 lap lagi ya.
Fernandez and Aguirre trouncing the factory Aprilias once again here, just as they did in Assen.
Jorge Martin is 9 seconds off the lead as Aguirre goes charging in to turn 1. Don't think that was an overtaking attempt by any means, but Ralf Fernandez has seen this movie before and he doesn't want the same ending as Assen.
I don't know whether that was Fernandez just making a bit of a hash of his braking marker into the first corner, or whether Aguirre
apa tuh
just
caranya
good
spesies
on the
lain
front brake lever as
kudu
he,
apa
squeezed it
tuh
going into
bang
that tricky
ngetik yang
off-down
bener
downhill first corner. First gear through there, just under 80 kilometres an hour. We're on board then with Aguirre. He is, without any question, I mean, Davide Brivio has talked recently to Jack Dan in pit lane. Now we're under the radar, we're low profile, we're low key in this championship battle. Not any longer. I'm sorry, Davide, to break that news to you, but you are one of the big contenders moving into the second half of the campaign.
Bagnaia once again chasing down Jorge Martin. It just feels as if Bagnaia is having a bit of a go at Martin, trying to catch and go on terms with him, and then letting his front tyre temperature pressure cool down a bit before attacking again. Once more, is this the latest attempt for Bagnaia to call himself onto terms and potentially ahead of Jorge Martin to try and rescue
udah nge-live lama-lama ya.
if he can pass the 89.
A lot in terms of the lap times between Mark and the track out of Aprilias behind him. 21.8 from Mark, 21.9s from both Fernandez and Aguirre. So they're running a pretty hot pace, the 2 Trackhouse boys behind Mark, but the trouble is they've let him check out almost 2.5 seconds now up the road. Very lonely 4th place incoming for Acosta. There's going to be a welcome 13 points added to his tally after back-to-back Sunday DNFs over in Brno and in Assen.
Crutchlow Toprak battle still rages on. They swap places again. Toprak took that 15th place on the last lap. Cal Crutchlow's got back ahead of him partway through this 22nd lap of 30. That is all for 1 World Championship point. 20 points on offer for the rider that finishes second, which looks like it's going to be in the colours of Trackhouse. Will it be Fernandez or will it be Aguirre?
Great deal of movement, you have to say, throughout the pack. Enea Bastianini a couple laps ago did take 11 from Moreira. His yellow flags are out too. Oh, Cal Crutchlow's gone down. So Cal Crutchlow having a fantastic tussle with the Turk Toprak Razgatlioglu. Unfortunately, Cal has bailed out at turn 3. Tip off down the hill into the Omega corner. Shame that for Cal Crutchlow because he was right in the hunt for World Championship points.
Oh, ada yang crash coy.
He's okay. Bit of a knock to the old bones.
Ada yang crash.
Turn 3 has been a troublesome spot throughout this German Grand Prix weekend. There's been a bump sort of 2/3 of the way around that corner, which has caught several out throughout the weekend. And turn 3 biting all the way to the end. It's the corner that Marc Marquez is tackling now, and that is what 93 world champion race pace looks like, a pace that no one else has been able to match today.
It's all starting to get a little bit ominous, isn't it, for those title rivals amassed around Mark as we move into the second half of the season. Some real strongholds coming up in the final 11 Grand Prix when you think of Aragon at the end of August, on other anti-clockwise tracks where Mark's taken wins galore at Valencia, the season finale, Phillip Island. And there are some tracks where he'll have already ticked the box. Well, that's 37 points. Hopefully safe and secure. 37 points surely coming his way here in the Grand Prix of Germany. What about the battle for second and third, which still rages between the Trackhouse twins of Fernandez and Agura?
Yeah, it's not just second in the race that Agura is fighting for, second in the World Championship as well. If he can pass Raul Fernandez, then he would score enough points to at least keep Marc Marquez behind him in the World Championship, and it would be Martin leading Agura in the World Championship. We have 7 laps of this to go, and this is the closest Agura has been.
Yeah, and Agura lining up a move on the inside. Just a game of dare on the brakes now, isn't it? Yeah, Fernandez tries to resist. He does just about do so as well. Dropping back across the nose to Agura on that tricky first gear turn 1. So Agura's had one very close look at his teammates. Trying to get a bit of a revenge here is Fernandez, having had nothing for Agura over the Grand Prix in the Netherlands.
I do wonder if that hadn't been his teammate, whether Agura would have just let the brake off and had a go at that. Doesn't want, of course, take his teammate out, with Trackhouse takes that on course at the moment for a 2-3 after a 1-2 in Assen. And you have to say, with the form of Marc Marquez at the Sachsenring, a 2-3 is about as good as it's going to get for his opposition.
Yeah, we're pretty on course for their first ever podium finishes here at the Sachsenring. Podiums had Alex Marquez and Fabio Di Gianantonio not made key early mistakes that they might not have expected. I think they felt that, on paper at least, Alex and Digia both had the upper hand compared to the Trackhouse duo. But you've got to be in it to win it, or in it to be on the podium, and that's exactly what Fernandez and Agura are doing at the moment. This will feel like a long 6 laps or so for Raul Fernandez as he sees plus 0.79 on the pit wall, because he will know what is coming. It's just a matter of when.
And it could be now, because once again he's in the slipstream coming towards turn 1. He's right up alongside this time. He can just hang Fernandez out to dry. Fernandez wants to tip it in, but his teammate is firmly in the way, and Agura now moves up into second place.
Yeah, barring that surprise move he made on Acosta at the final corner in Barcelona a few weeks ago. Normally clean as a whistle, aren't they, the moves that Agura makes, as Bagnaia runs over the curb on the inside there in this battle for fifth with Martin. Now, some important World Championship points at stake here. Agura then will seize outright second in the standings. Unlikely it's going to get any better for him than the 20 points he'll collect for second. But can you imagine if you'd have said to Agura ahead of his second season in Motogp, we know Marc Marquez has missed a couple of Grand Prix, but going into summer break, Agura will be second and ahead of Marc Marquez in the World Championship. What a story it has been for the 25-year-old Japanese star.
These are going to be 5.5 long laps here for Jorge Martin. It's the shortest lap of the calendar, but it won't feel like it for the current World Championship leader, as he is hanging on to 5th place. Bagnaia, I was watching the top left corner of the screen. Bagnaia had a bit of a lunge at him into turn 1, and then we cut to Bagnaia halfway up the curbs on the way around turn 2. Martin and Bagnaia, as mentioned earlier on, this is not their first Sachsenring battle. There's only a point difference between 5th and 6th, but plenty of kudos, plenty of ego too.
Fernandez caught in another Agura blitz once again, having made the move at the start of that lap 25. Straight away Agura checked out by almost a second. A 122 flat from Agura as opposed to 122.9. He was moved off the racing line here in the first corner, wasn't he? Fernandez has moved off the racing line, goes initially Martin, then Bagnaia through the first 2 corners. This is not their first rodeo, is it, here in the Sachsenring? 2023 and 2024, these two had epic battles for the victory. On this occasion, though, it's going to be for, I won't say the minor places, but 5th is not what they came for. They've certainly been hoping to be closer to the Agura-Fernandez battle.
Martin trying to make that a Aprilia as wide as possible. Bagnaia trying to clamber past him, round him, over the top of him, but at the moment not able to find a way through for that 5th place. So far on this lap, Agura has now pulled out a full second over Raul Fernandez. Fernandez not coming under any pressure from Pedro Acosta at the moment, but that 2-3 for Trackhouse looks like the order has been settled in favour of Agura.
Agura pushing out a bit of a kick in here for Fernandez, who's got nothing late on for his teammate. We know that he's kind of the new tyre whisperer in Motogp, isn't he? Agura, so good he is towards the back end of Grand Prix. Well, he'll tell you, well, yeah, but because I'm too weak at the starts, but he seems to have resolved that particular issue. Because once again, He's a couple of tenths quicker than Fernandez in third
4 lap
place.
lagi guys.
Yeah, Fernandez has no bother troubling him behind. Acosta cut adrift by almost 3 seconds. He just cannot find a way through. He's had a couple of little niggles, hasn't he, at Martin, without being able to mount a fully successful raid.
Not a good 26th lap for Jack Miller, who'd been hanging on to that 8th place for so long. He's lost 3 places on the last lap. Marini, Bastianini and Binder all took him, pushed him down to 11th, and already on this lap, Jack Miller has been overtaken from Diogo Moreira, so it looks like that dam has finally burst.
Maverick Vinales' weekend of woe ends with a pit. He has just entered the pits, has Maverick Vinales. A thoroughly and instantly forgettable German Grand Prix experience for Maverick Vinales, who glares at his front tyres, complained about a lack of front feeling, a lack of front confidence all weekend. Obviously some kind of serious issue, so very rare for a top-level Motogp rider to quit on their stall. We'll get the thoughts of Maverick post-race, I'm sure, as we look at Marc Marquez.
Ya, 3 lap lagi.
Another massive Saxon win on the opposition here. 2.5 seconds he is clear of Ayagura,
lagi guys.
who was absolutely destroyed Ralph Fernandez.
Nggak tertandingi
Marquez. Fight for second place. Fernandez just has no late race pace to go with
Bagnaia going in a little bit hot, but you can cut a late apex out of turn 1, so he doesn't lose too much time there to Jorge Martin. 3 laps to go for Pecco Bagnaia, who feels like he spent the entire Grand Prix staring at the rear tyre of the rider who beat him to the World Championship back in 2024. It's not what Pecco Bagnaia came to the Sachsenring for, but yeah, for a bit of bragging rights over his good friend Jorge Martin, he'll desperately want to try and snatch away this 5th place.
Yeah, Martin has to see this weekend as something of a successful one, given the fact that he's going to increase his World Championship League. Well, he's potentially going to double it from 7 to 14 points. I think what he is going to say, though, is that clearly he's been out-raced. He's been outperformed once again by both Agura and Fernandez. Still not quite able to find that sweet spot.
Ya, disalip.
The sweet spot.
Siapa itu disalip? Nggak jadi.
Going through 11 was Bagnaia. Martin put a move on Bagnaia at that very point in the circuit in the sprint yesterday, trying to get some revenge there was Pecco, but some defensive ride this by Martin as he looks to defend what is potentially that 14-point lead in the championship.
Flip this on-board camera round, I think you'll see some steam coming out of Pecco Bagnaia's ears. He's tried at turn 1, tried turn 2 and turn 3, and he's now tried through turn 11. No success yet to pass Jorge Martin's factory of Aprilia. He's got 2 more laps to try and crack it.
Hoping that Martin maybe crashes out late on at the first corner like he did so in front of Pecco when they were fighting for the win here a couple of years ago. No mistakes though from Jorge Martin. He can't make a mistake if he runs a millimetre off here or misses a braking marker by half a foot.
Siapa pemenangnya? Ayo tebak.
So this has been a real top performance by Martin, clinging on for dear life for this 5th place and what will feel like 11 incredibly important World Championship points. At the front, Marquez in cruise control. He's just backing it off now, rolling out of it just to make sure that there are no late concerns for him. Gap's come down to just over 2 seconds between Mark and Agura.
Sure, Mark will tell us after the Grand Prix that this was far from easy, this wasn't a formality, but boy does he make winning look so easy. The expensive win that he described back at Brno when he rode out of his skin to defeat Ayagura on that particular day. Marc Marquez doing what he so often does at the Sachsenring. 29 laps completed out front.
Last lap ya, udah Marc Marquez ini mah yang menang. Tebak ya.
Motogp win at his beloved
Tebak udah
Sachsenring.
ini Marc Marquez. Dari tadi nggak disalip dari awal gitu.
Single second.
Dari awal nggak ada yang nyalip
travels for fun in his Grand Prix career. This could be his 10th pole position, sprint win and Grand Prix win. Feels like that was written in the stars to do it here at the Sachsenring, where he is going to crush the opposition once again. He has made it look a breeze, it has been anything but Marc Marquez was already, he said pre-weekend, I'm in the game. I'm fighting for the World Championship. A game that's becoming very complicated for his arch rivals. Looking over their shoulders now will be Jorge Martin and Ayagura. They'll see the big threat of the 93 looming large. Martin somehow is still defending that 5th place from Bagnaia.
Yeah, Martin looks over his shoulder right now. He'll still see Pecco Bagnaia. Those 11 points still up for grabs. The 25 they've not felt in doubt since the moment we touched down in Germany.
Through turn 12 we go then, just one corner left for the reigning world champion. Marc Marquez, well, he is MotoGP royalty, and he's going to remain on the throne as the undisputed king of the Saxon Ring. It's a perfect 10. It's a 10th victory here in the Grand Prix of Germany at one of his favourite circuits. Game on in terms of the World Championship for the number 93. Ayagura leads home another double podium for Trackhouse. Another brilliant day for the American squad. A brilliant day for Ayagura, who now moves up into 2nd in the World Championship on a tough weekend for Italians, Marco Bezzecchi and Fabio Di Gianantonio. Fernandez is 3rd, Acosta 4th. Martin somehow does hold off Bagnaia for 5th place. Lothar Matthäus, German World Cup winning star, waves the checkered flag. But it's a perfect 10 once again for the factory Ducati star, Marc Marquez. He is motoring towards that 8th World Championship. Once again, he has been simply untouchable, simply irresistible here at the Saxon Ring. He joins Giacomo Agostini on 10 wins at the same circuit, equaling the Italian icon who had 10 wins at the Matra. The winning nowhere near finished here at the Saxon Ring is there as he gets the crown, as once again on the throne, crowned the king of the Saxon Ring. It is the one and only Marc Marquez.
It was a 10 out of 10 performance, wasn't it, from Marc Marquez this weekend? He's going to take that crown with him back to Parc Ferme, and he might soon be back ascending the throne in MotoGP. Once again, your undisputed king of the ring. For the 10th time in MotoGP, it's 13 wins in all classes, 2 in Moto2, 1 in 125. They might as well name this place after him. Simply unbeatable here again.
The king of the Saxon Ring reigns supreme once again. The fireworks, the firecrackers are going to get set off on what has been another cracking weekend, another conquering weekend for Marc Marquez here at the Saxon Ring. He takes his winning tally in MotoGP now to 76. 10 of those have come right here at the Saxon Ring. A winning journey. We started in MotoGP back in 2013. 11 times Marc Marquez has raced in the Premier Class here in Germany, and he's only dropped 5 points. Only once has he not won. That was when he was 2nd back in 2024. Once again, Marc came, Marc saw, Marc conquered the German Grand Prix. Completely untouchable, completely on a different level. Nobody really in both the sprint and the Grand Prix came close to laying a single glove on him. It's the first time since Pecco Bagnaia in Motogp last year that a rider has led every single lap of the sprint and the Grand Prix, emphasising the dominance in Deutschland once again for the number 93.
I didn't see which way he went, but the closest was Ayagura, who wouldn't have give you a single penny, I don't think, on Thursday of standing on the podium himself this weekend, but that is what he's done, and he is looking like the complete package, isn't he, right now in MotoGP, as are Trackhouse, who once again take a double MotoGP podium, and Ayagura moves up into a clear 2nd place in the MotoGP World Championship. He is a big title contender as we head into the 2nd half of the year. 3
successive podiums in a row for just the 2nd time in his entire Grand Prix career for Agura-san. He only previously did that before in Moto3 back in 2020. Great times for the Japanese rider, who does, as mentioned, for the first time since 2002, become the first Japanese rider to get 3 MotoGP podiums on the spin. Well, Ducati knew this was going to be a stronghold, a potential 37 points up in the offing for Marc Marquez. He delivered. Let's get the thoughts from the boss, Davide Tardozzi.
Davide, 18 points now, 3rd in the World Championship. Game on in the 2nd half of the year. Yeah, but as I said, when we was 100 points behind, Bezzecchi is not finished. I still say it's not finished. I mean, the championship is absolutely open. We saw that the Trackhouse guys grows a lot, so is the championship open to at least 5-6 riders.
Congrats today.
Thank you.
3 wins in the last 4 Grand Prix have completely turned around this world championship.
Ya,
Has been turned
sudah ya pertandingan
firmly
sudah
on
selesai
its
ya.
head. Another brilliant
Makasih yang
performance by
udah
Rafa
nonton
Fernandez.
ya.
Another superb
Udahan.
weekend
Yo,
for
salam
Trackhouse.